and thanks for joining me here on my channel, Stamp with Julie Baum. Today's tutorial is going to show you the 3 projects that are made at Stamp Club in May of 2025. For the first card, we're going to use the packet. It has these items in it. We're going to do some stamping and some die cutting, and we also are going to do some scoring. So let's get started. You're going to take your white piece that is 5 inches by 6 inches, and this is 5 inches tall by 6 inches across, and we are going to make a score line at 2 inches and at 4 inches. Now, while you have your scoring tool here, we're also going to score the 2 small white pieces that are included in your packet. They're a 1/2 inch by 2 inches, and they are going to get a score line at 1 inch. That will make them fold nice and neatly. Okay, so we've got that, and we are done scoring. You can go ahead and fold those little strips and set them aside. I just dropped my designer series paper onto the floor. And of course it drifted across the floor. Across the room. Okay. You can go ahead and fold those 2 small white pieces and set them aside. And then on the white piece that we just scored, this front panel, well, this front line is going to get folded up. Okay, this one's up, and then the second one is going to go down. So it's kind of like a Z. All right, like so. Now, let's set that aside. We're going to take our Melon Mambo cardstock. This is 5.5 by 8.5. I've already scored and folded mine at, 5.5 by 8.5, yes. I've already scored and folded mine at 4.25 inches. This is what you're going to be doing if you need to do your die cutting, if your packet did not include this piece that is pre-cut. So you're going to take your Stylish Shapes dies and find this square. This is the second from the largest. You're going to place it onto your Melon Mambo cardstock, run it through your Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, which is going to cut that square out of the piece of cardstock. Do you see that? Okay. Now this piece we're not going to use, but we do have the exact same size piece in fresh freesia that you will cut or has been prepared for you. All right, then we have a smaller white square, and that's where we're going to begin our stamping. The colors that we're using are fresh freesia, Melon Mambo, and Granny Apple Green. So the first thing that I'm going to do is stamp this mushroom top onto my little square up here at the top towards the right corner. All right, then we're going to take the large toadstool stem and using Melon Mambo, but I'm going to stamp it off so that I get a lighter version. So ink it up with Melon Mambo, stamp it off on your scratch paper, and then on to your project, lining up that stem right in the center of your toadstool. Okay, like so. Then we're going to continue with Melon Mambo. You're going to want that little short stem for the toadstools. And once again, we're going to stamp off and then onto the small paper, one on the right of our large toadstool and one to the left. Continuing with Melon Mambo, we're going to use that little top that creates the little cap of the mushroom or the toadstool. And you can do this nice and straight like that, or you can tip it a little bit at an angle, whatever you like. All right, now over here in the corner, we're going to use green. This is Granny Apple Green. And for the base or the little stems, I'm going to stamp it off and then onto my cardstock. And then I'll use full strength with the little tops. And I do want to look down through my stamp until I see this top of the stems touching the mushroom top. Okay, like so. All right, that cute little piece is done. We can go ahead and attach it to the Fresh Freesia square. So let's do that. And then we're going to continue our stamping on that big white piece that we folded. All right, this should fit very nicely in the center of that die cut square. Slide mine down and over a little bit. All right, like so. All right, we're going to stamp some of those same mushrooms, and we're going to also add some words to this piece. So you have your up fold and your down fold. The down fold is the right side of the paper. The up fold is at your left. Okay. So first, let's stamp the words "Poppin' Up to Say Hi." And this is going to get done in Melon Mambo full strength. And you kind of want it towards the right, but it is going to stamp over that fold. So when you lay your stamp down, make sure you do add some firm pressure so that the stamp is leaving ink behind even in that little score line, like so. Now let's take that fun little hill stamp and we'll make a grassy hill out of that one. I'm going to clean my Poppin' Up image so I can use this same block since it's right here. Now I found when I was using my Granny Apple Green ink pad earlier this week that it was a little uneven, so it's a little heavier inked in some places and a little lighter ink in others, and it was giving me almost an ombre look. Now I did take a plastic spoon like you've seen me do when I re-ink my pads, and I kind of smushed it around to see if I could even that out a little, but I can't really say that I didn't. What I want to say is I didn't really mind the look, so we'll see what happens now that I kind of altered my ink pad. It might just come out all one color. All right, this little green hill is going to almost come over to this left fold, but not quite. Okay, and you do want it down low near the bottom of the cardstock. So we'll get that stamped and then we'll add our little mushrooms. Okay, back to Melon Mambo. Let's do the top first. So back to Fresh Freesia, and we're going to put one of those big, well, I want to make sure that my stem goes down low enough. So on second thought, let's start with the stem this time. And I'm going to stamp it off. And I'm going to start all the way down here on the ground, lower than my green hill, like even with the bottom of the card. Oh, it's a little bit to the right, a little further than I would have planned. That's okay. This little guy is going to hang off the edge a little bit. All right, so if your green hill is a little further towards the left, then this stem can be a little bit further to the left and you won't miss out quite so much on the top of that, but it's cute. We are not going to worry about it. It doesn't really matter. All right, back to those the set of 3 stems, inked, stamped off, and I'm going to do one basically right here by the score line, and I'm going to do a second one way over here to the left, making sure that the bottom of the stem is touching the hill so that my mushrooms aren't floating. You want it all the way down touching like that. Let's add the tops of those guys. We'll do one set in Granny Apple Green. Then we're going to clean our stamp and do the second set in Fresh Freesia. Mix it up a little bit. Like so. Okay, let's put some little guys down in between. So Melon Mambo stamped off, and I'll put one here again going right down to touch the green grassy hill, and this one as well. And then let's use full strength Melon Mambo, and again you can kind of adjust which way your little cap is going, straight or at an angle, like so. Look how cute our little toadstool garden. Okay, that is all the stamping except for our words. So what I want you to do next is take that scrap of white cardstock, and I am using this Labeled with Love punch. The stamp set that coordinated with this and was available as a bundle has gone to the last chance list if it is still available, Labeled with Love. But the punch, I believe, is carrying over. So we're going to go ahead and punch our little white shape. And then with some black ink, we will stamp our words. Now we're going to use words from Memorable Blooms, mostly because I'm going to be using stamps from this set again. So we've got terrific toadstools that we're using, and we're borrowing words from this one, and then later we're going to use more stamps from that set. Some of you bought Memorable Blooms after you saw how we used it at a previous stamp club, which, by the way, Memorable Blooms and the dies are on the last chance list. All right, You've Been on My Mind is the stamp that I chose, and I'm going to use my black ink. This is a different black ink pad than I used previously, so I'm just going to give it a practice stamp, make sure it's inked up enough. It's a little bit light, so I'm just going to make sure that I really ink it. That's going to be better. All right, and then you're just kind of trying to center that on your little tag. I can see I got ink on there. All right, there's my tag. Let's see if I can try to get that little bit of ink off my fingers so I don't continue to make smudges. All right, at this point our stamping is done, and so we can put our ink pads away. One little extra thing that you might want to do, if you have any of the Stampin' Blends in one of these 3 colors, you can add a little bit of extra. I'm going to use my Granny Apple Green Stampin' Blend, and I will use, let's see, where are you, Granny Apple? Okay, I'm looking for my marker, my Stampin' Blend, and it's not there. And where are you? Here it is. Okay, so you can use light or dark, it's up to you. But what I'm going to do is put a little bit of splatter on this, and I want to do it before I put the card together so that splatter doesn't end up where I don't want it to go. So you've seen this little technique before. I'm just going to use the cap and my Stampin' Blend, and using the brush end, I'm just going to kind of flick it in a downward motion, and it is putting those little soft splatter marks. And I'll put a few over here and here. I just think with the toadstools, it makes it look kind of whimsical, having that little splatter. All right, and then while we're at it, and we've got the marker out, let's put some little splatters on here. I probably shouldn't have attached it to the fresh freesia, but that's okay. There we go. Just a couple of splatters. All right, we're going to put our card together, and you're going to see how really fun this is, the way that our piece is going to pop through to the front. So we've got all of our elements here, and this is where we're going to need those little white pieces. All right, so on the front of the card, let's attach our designer series paper. This is going to go right in the middle below the window and the bottom of the cardstock. So we're going to glue it on there. Mine is extra long. I just didn't trim it to the right length. I'll go ahead and glue it on it, and then I'll snip it off. So I don't need glue to go all the way to this edge because it's not going to get attached. All right, let's see. Do you want to zoom out a little bit? Is that better? So right under the window, about equal space under the window and from the bottom of the cardstock. Let's see if mine is straight. I think it is. All right, and then you will not need to, I have a Post-it stuck here. You will not need to trim yours, I don't believe. I think it was prepared for you already at the correct length. But if it wasn't and it's a little long, of course you're just gonna trim it off. Okay, there's the front of our card. Now with the little stamped tag that we've made, this is going to get added to the front. I'm just going to do it flat. I suppose it's up to you, but once we have the mechanical part of the card going, I just didn't want the extra bulk of using dimensionals, but that's totally up to you. And I'm going to center it here between my window and center it on this green piece. And it's kind of nice because that rounded edge pretty much is on the green paper. So it's kind of helps to see if it's straight or not. Okay, now the mechanics. So we're going to take this white piece, okay, and you're just going to go ahead and fold it and close it. And on the back side here, we're going to put our adhesive and attach it right here at the card base. Okay, so what's going to happen is this piece is going to be glued down and this piece is going to still be free. Do you see that? Okay, and you can go ahead and leave a little bit of a pink border around that. So I've got my piece. I'm going to close it up, flip it over, and add my adhesive to the back. So the adhesive is going behind your words and your large toadstool. Okay, and then I'm going to lay it inside the card base like so. Okay, let's press that into place. We want that to stay. I'm going to make sure mine's straight. I think it is. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is get our square into place. So you have your white piece glued now. What we're going to do is we're going to close the front of the card and we're going to attach this piece only to this white section. It's going to fit in here just like a puzzle piece. Do you see that? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some adhesive to this white piece because I want to make sure that it's only on the white piece where it's going to touch this. And I'm going to use tear and tape. I'm going to hold this with my block while I reach for my tear and tape. Okay, and I'm going to do 2 strips. So here on the white piece, I'm going to lay down my first strip. And I like to tear mine against the straight edge of my metal ruler. And then I'm going to lay down a second strip. Only on the white, making sure that you don't get any on that Melon Mambo cardstock. Okay, like so. Now, we're going to release the backing, and then after we do, you're going to take your little square, and like a puzzle, you're going to fit it right into that opening, and you're going to press it down onto your adhesive. Today here in Southern California, it is gray and gloomy and only in the 60s. And by the end of the week, we are going to hit the high 90s. So this is the season in SoCal where we go back and forth from winter, slide through spring, have a couple of summer days, and then it gets cold again. I tell you, May and June are often like that. Okay, I'm fitting my puzzle piece in right there to that space that we already created, pressing it down so that it's really sticking to my tear and tape. Now we're not quite done, but I will show you how this is starting to work. Now, when the card gets open, that little piece is going to be free, okay? This is what we're going to work on next, but you can see how that square fits inside the opening. So cute. All right, so now to make this part work, this is where those white small pieces come in handy. So holding your card like I am, go ahead and turn it and open this flap. So we are working on this white piece. On the front is your square, and we're working on the back. We're going to take some adhesive. I'm going to use tear and tape again. And I'm going to put tear and tape across pretty much this whole length. And where did my tape go? There it is. All right, so pretty much end to end. There's that one. I hope you're excited about the mechanics of this card. I think it's a really great fun fold. It's really special the way that the little square swings through. And of course you can change up your papers and your stamps and do all kinds of different looks. Okay, I'll show you what we're going to do before I release the tape, just so that we don't have it sticking in the wrong place on accident. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your strip. We are going to pull the backing off, and then with it folded, the fold towards the edge of the paper, the open end here, we're going to lay it flush with the edge of our cardstock, like that. Okay, with this piece, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to release the tape and fold it. The folded edge is here, the open edge is here, and we're going to lay it right onto the white cardstock with that folded edge lined up just nice and straight with the edge of the white cardstock. All right, let's do that. And this tiny little simple step is what makes our card work the way that it's supposed to do. All right, so I've released the tape, I've got it folded. The folded edge is going right here at the edge of the white cardstock, which means that this top part is sticky, right? That's sticky. Same thing, release the backing, fold it. The folded edge is going to go right at the edge of the white cardstock. It's just down a little bit from what would be the bottom. I guess this is the bottom, this is the top of the card. Okay, like so. This right here is sticky with our tear and tape, and this right here is sticky with our tear and tape. Now what we're going to do is, with those sticky pieces still, wait, let me make sure before I tell you what to do, let me make sure, because we don't want it to stick to the wrong thing. We're going to do this. And that, yeah, that's what we're going to do. Okay. All right, so I'm a little bit concerned that this white one is a little close to this one. Okay, so if you did that too and it's overlapping, like this should have been a little more towards the corner. If yours is like that, we're going to do a quick fix. If yours is fine, just leave it. But all I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this down a teeny bit because I don't want it behind my purple piece. Okay, so if you need to make a little adjustment, do it now. I should have warned you a little bit better on that. Okay, so I'm still making an adjustment. I'm just trimming out that white piece. Okay, so you have not ruined your card. All you did was do what I told you, and you don't want it behind this square. That's the thing. All right, so I've got my sticky parts up, and what I'm going to do is bring this into the card. Now I forgot this step again. Oh, it's going to go there. Okay, it's going to go into the card like this. Here's our square, sticky, sticky, and you're going to shut the front of the card and press it against those sticky parts. All right, very easy. I kind of fumbled my directions, which made it seem complicated, but it's not complicated at all. All right, once that is in place, you're going to see that the card will open, but it stays in place because of our little anchors that we put at the top and the bottom. So your card will shut and look flat, and then when it opens, your little window pops through. Oh my goodness, it's so cute. Let's add some embellishments just to finish this one off. You should have some purple sequins in your materials packet, and I'm running low on purple. These are from the purple sequins that were available at Celebration, so I might use this darker color. You probably have the right lighter color of purple in your materials packet. All right, and I'm going to use 3. There's enough for you to do the same, and I'm going to put one on my cardstock and a second one maybe here, and my final one I'm going to go ahead and put on the white tag. You might have some large ones or some small ones. You can use what you want. There's nothing wrong with using all the same size or mixing it up. And there we have our little sequins. Super, super cute. That is card number 1. So let me move these things out of the way. We will move on to card number 2. We're saving the fastest and easiest project for last. And we're done with that punch. And we're done with the toadstool stamps. So I'm not going to take the time to clean them all while you sit here waiting, but I do need to get a couple of them out of my way so I don't stick my arm on them. And then I will clean the rest later. All right, go ahead and find in your materials packet this setup. All right, now Stamp Club VIPs, you will actually be cutting your arches in class. And for those of you who have them pre-die cut in your packet, you will see that they've been done for you. So you have a card base out of gray granite. We're going to go ahead and score it. If yours is not scored, go ahead and score it at 4¼ inches so that we can fold. In fact, you do need to do this step because we need it scored and folded, and we are going to do a special cut on our card base. So we have that piece. Then you have a lovely piece of designer series paper from Everyday Happiness. And I wrote about this in my blog, saying that this paper has really been overlooked. At least I overlooked it. It didn't really catch my attention, but it is beautiful. And it's one of those packets where you get 4 of each of the design instead of only 2. So it's still 12 pieces in the packet, but you get more of fewer designs. And I really liked that. What's on the back? That's beautiful too. All right, so this piece, don't attach it yet. I'm just showing you the papers because this is actually going to go here. What? Yes, I've got a surprise for you. Then you have either a Lost Lagoon large arch, or you might have Wild Wheat. All right, you have one of those colors. Wild Wheat is one of the InColors that has now retired, but some of the Wild Wheat products are on the last chance list and remain there until they're sold out. If you have not gotten Wild Wheat cardstock and the ink pad, I suggest you get it because it is, I would have said it was one of the ugly colors, and now that I've been using it almost when it's too late, I'm really liking it. So this large piece for you is either Wild Wheat or Lost Lagoon. Then you have another piece of the Everyday Happiness Designer Series paper, and that one, that arch is a little bit smaller. Let's see what the back side is that. And then you have a very vanilla arch that is the same size as that smaller one. So those are your parts, okay? Then you also have 2 small pieces of Designer Series paper. You either have this pattern or you might have this one. They're both beautiful and they both will work just beautifully on your card. So whichever one is in your packet. All right, let's do our special cutting. That way we can get our trimmer out of the way and then we'll do our stamping. So with that card base, gray granite, you've made your score line and you have folded it. Now we're going to open it flat. You need to get your trimmer. And I'm going to get my scoring blade out of the way. I'm just going to use the cutting blade. And then remember that you have measurements here because that is what we're going to be looking for. We're going to look for the 4-inch mark. So taking my cardstock and putting it in here. Now, if this left edge is at 4¼ you'll find that your score line is right there in the groove. Or you don't even need to look at this. Just put your score line right there in the cutting groove. Okay? Now, we're going to take our cutting blade and cut the cardstock all the way down until we get to the 4-inch mark here and stop. So I can see with this little notch here, and I can see my 4, and I line those 2 up and stop. Okay, I can go ahead and slide my blade out of the way. We're going to do one more cut. So now I'm going to lift this out. I'm going to tell you the easiest way to do this. I think that'll be the easiest way. Now we're going to, okay, you're going to turn it clockwise. And this left edge of your cardstock is going to be at the 1½ inch mark, like so. Now, you're going to bring your blade down. Don't cut your paper yet. You're going to bring your blade down and you're going to set it right into the cut line that you already made. So on your ruler here, it's going to be at the 4¼ mark. And we're going to cut that piece of the cardstock completely off. like so. So that left 1.5 inches here, and it left the back intact, and this piece has been cut away. Okay, not hard, just a couple steps. All right. For those of you who are stamping live, you're going to want to go ahead and cut your arch. This is the largest of the everyday arches. I am telling you, I'm absolutely freaking out in love with these arch shapes. They are by far going to be the standout shape of the year. This is the largest, and then this is the next one down. So you've got a large out of your Wild Wheat or Lost Lagoon, and then the next size down out of your Designer Series paper and Vanilla. All right, what we're going to do is we're going to attach this piece to the large panel that's left of our card base that we didn't cut away. Let's go ahead and put that on. It's kind of a shame because only the top part of this paper is going to end up showing, even though it's really, really pretty. And so I suppose if you wanted to try to save some of the paper and not have it wasted, you could perhaps just do a half of this length from top to bottom. So instead of a 5¼ inch piece, maybe you only do 2 3/4, and then none of this would show, but it does sort of show. So let me show you. That's going to go there. This is going to go on top of it like that. So see, it still kind of shows on the right and the left. So that's why I used a full piece. This is going to go on, but we're going to do some stamping. So let's do our stamping next. I'm using the small little flower bunch from Memorable Blooms. And if you have Lost Lagoon, you're going to want to use Lost Lagoon ink. And if your arch is Wild Wheat, then you're going to use Wild Wheat. I do have a finished one that I'm going to show you at the end, so you'll get to see one with the wheat color. All right, and this is going to be fast and easy. All we're going to do is put a little teeny bit of decoration at the top part of our arch and at the bottom. So I'm just going to stamp the flowers down here in the right corner. Ooh, I caught an edge. And then up here, maybe a time or two. That's it. We're just adding a little bit of interest to it. All right, since we're stamping, let's continue. So let's put that piece out of the way. We're going to get our vanilla piece in. Now let me show you something. We're using the large stamp from Memorable Blooms, and it is large. So if you are using an acrylic block for this one, you are going to need our largest block, which is really big, because here, I'll show you. The D block is not large enough, and even the I block is not large enough. You need the one that's like a quarter sheet of cardstock big. Okay, I don't know what letter it is right now. Maybe it's G. Yeah, it might be the G block. Wait, I think it's here. I can tell you for sure. Okay, correction. If you happen to have an E block, your E will work. Okay, I'm going to use a stamp positioner. So I'm going to show you that method. But if you have an E block, that will work. So we still have a block that's bigger than this, if you can believe that. Okay, so either grab your E block and get your stamp mounted to that, or substitute a different flower stamp if you don't have Memorable Blooms. I'm going to use my stamp positioner, and if you have been around for a couple of years, you'll recall that we did at Stampin' Up! Have our own version of a stamp positioner, and it was called the Stamparatus, and that is no longer available. We are not making or selling that anymore. So I invested in a Misty, which I really, really like the Misty. Not that I didn't like or don't like the Stamparatus. I still use it sometimes, but I'm going to use my Misty. The reason I am is because we're going to stamp this on the front of our card. This is the main focal image, and I want it to be a nice dark black. And in case I need to stamp it twice to get it as dark as I want it, that's where my stamp positioner is going to come in handy. So I'm going to raise this up. I'm going to go ahead and put my arch in here. Oh, I don't need this pad in here because it's got red rubber and a cushion, so I don't need my pad. All right, my arch is here. I'm going to hold it down with these extra strong magnets. This is where my image is going to go. And then I'm going to close the lid so that it can pick up the stamp. This is instead of an acrylic block. Like so. All right, now I'm going to turn this just so I'm not completely out of your view. I'm going to ink up this part with my black ink. I'm going to take the ink pad to the stamp in this instance. And as I mentioned, the greatest thing about using a stamp positioner is if you have to stamp your image more than once to get it nice and clear or to get it as dark as you want, this is really the way to go. All right, we'll see if we get it in one. If not, no problem. We'll stamp it a second time. All right, and then you can just press this with your hands if you like. I really like using a little pressure tool. This looks like an air hockey controller, but this just seems a little bit easier for me, and so I just rub it, press it back and forth, but you can definitely just use your fingers like that. All right, let's see what our image is looking like and if we need to stamp it a second time. I think it would be totally acceptable, but it's a little bit light here in the middle, so I am going to make this misty do its work, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp it a second time, adding a little extra ink to the middle. And we'll see what we get from the second try. All right, what do you think? You think it's going to be great? I do. I think that that is going to be exactly what we wanted. Ta-da! Okay, I'm going to move my super strong magnets out of the way, keeping them away from each other, and move my Misty out of the way. I'll clean this better later. I just wanted to get some of that ink off before I shut it to move it. And now we're going to use some Stampin' Blends just to do some quick coloring. So I'm using Lost Lagoon, light and dark. And I'm going to stamp the flowers, or color the flowers, in my Lost Lagoon. So I'm using the brush end. I'm just coloring. My Stamp Club VIPs, you'll be using my Stampin' Blends, so you can do all of these steps just like you're seeing. And Stamp Club at home, of course, you can use whatever coloring tool that you have, whether you have the blends or some markers or some colored pencils. And if you had to substitute a different image, of course, you'll want to just go ahead and color it at this time. All right, there's those. I'm going to not color the smallest flowers, so I'm only going to color 4 of them in Lost Lagoon. A little bit of dark just to give it some shading and some interest. Make sure I got all those petals. I think I did. All right, so there's my blue flowers. Then, for the remaining flowers, I'm going to use Pecan Pie. We did not ever have Wild Wheat Stampin' Blends, I don't think. I don't have them, so if we did, I didn't get them, but pecan pie is a nice soft brown, and so I'm going to color the rest of the flowers in pecan pie. These are colors that are definitely represented in our designer series paper, so that's why I chose them. We've got another little bloom right here. And 2 over here. And 1, 2 over here. I'm not even going to add any dark. I just used light. Okay, I think I got them all. My next color choice is Mossy Meadow. And I'll be using the light for my large leaves. So I'm just doing the large leaves at this point, not the tiny little ones. So I've got 1, 2, 3, I think there's 5. Is there 5? Four and 5 are down here. Again, this is Mossy Meadow Light. And then I will add just a little bit of interest and shading with my dark. So I'm going to come in and do the line that the artist has already given us. That's easy. I love how you can just do some basic things and feel like an artist. Okay, and then I'm just going to put a little bit of dark. You can do what you like. Okay. The last color that I'm going to use is actually Soft Sea Foam. And it's because I wanted a really soft color on these leaves. I didn't want it this dark as Mossy Meadow. So let's see. I'm using dark. I think that's what I want because it's a light color anyway. Yeah. Look at how good that looks. All right. So now I'm going over the tiniest of the leaves. I'm also going down the stems, which is making it look just a little bit like a color wash. Because my marker is fatter than the stem. So as I go down the stem, it's just kind of leaving that color wash behind it. I'm really liking how this looks. So if you are stamping with me at home, you should be finishing up your coloring. And that's that. Let's put our words on here. Still pulling stamps from Memorable Blooms, my black ink, and thanks so much. And my stamp looks really crooked, so I am going to reposition it on my block. That looks better. Give it a little practice. All right, and then this is going to go near the bottom on the right side there, wherever you feel like you have room next to that leaf. I'm going to try to fit my T right in there. Like that. The last little bit that I'll do on here is once again doing a little splatter. So I'll use pecan pie. And this is just going to give it kind of a little antique look by adding that splatter. And maybe a little bit more here. All right, I think that's enough. For my taste, you can add as much as you wish. Okay, let's put the rest of our card together. So back to that card base that we created. What we're going to do is take the small pieces of designer series paper. You either have this one or the blue. I'll do it in this one. That way on the other card that I'm going to show you at the end, you'll see the other option. All right, so this piece is going to go right here on the inside flap when we did our cutting of that gray granite cardstock. So I'm going to center it in that area. And then on the front, I'm going to do the same thing and center it here. All right, our next job is to attach our arches. So let's go ahead with the large stamped one. This is going to go right here on the inside of the card. Just lovely. Because I caught an edge on there, I am going to go ahead and add one more stamp there. We'll see if it makes it worse or if it's fine, because I want to just kind of make that go away. So I'm going to add a little leaf right there. All right, so that, I think that that is less obvious than how it looked before. All right, this is going to get attached to the inside of the card. Love the arches. And I went ahead and went down to the bottom of the designer series paper. But as you can see, there's a teeny bit showing here and here. And that's going to go like so. All right, then we have this piece. So let me show you where we're headed. This piece is going to get attached to the front of the card like this. This piece is going to go exactly behind this one to cover up our coloring and to add some interest to the inside. That's going to match up exactly like that. And then what you want is when the card is closed, you want to have this blue or wild wheat arch reflected right behind this arch like that, so it looks layered. So we don't want this up so high that we cover the arch. Okay, we want to position this down low enough that you can see the color behind it. So I can tell that my bottom straight part of the arch is actually going to go along the same line as my designer series paper. So I don't want to put glue all over it because that's going to be a problem. The glue is only going to go down here at the bottom where it's attaching. So keep it down by the straight edge. Okay, don't take your glue up to the arch. All right, as I lay this down, I'm looking at my left side and my right side. I'm looking at to make sure I show some blue, and I want an equal amount. So that is looking great. This is now attached to the card, and the last thing we have to do is put our last piece. Now this piece is also very pretty. This is the part that I designed for you, so it's actually cut to go this way. And you're just going to take this, I'm going to put some adhesive here, and I'm going to lay this exactly over it. You do want to be careful because you don't want it sticking out. When you turn this over, you don't want any of it showing. All right, so line it up exactly over this arch. And I'm going to do that by doing it with my card open, and I'm going to lay it right on top of the vanilla one. And then before I press it, I'm going to look at the right side and the left side, and I'm going to go peek at it to make sure that I don't see any designer series paper around that whole edge. Okay, you don't want to see any designer series paper behind that arch. And if that is looking good, then you're going to press it into place for reals. All right, at that point we have our gorgeous thank you card that has interest because of the shape, and the arches and the paper make it just beautiful. I chose to not embellish it at all. If you want to add embellishments, you certainly can, but I think that it is clean and kind of understated as it is. And now the third fastest project, I wanted to show you the new 2025 to 2026 InColors. So you're going to make a teeny little card. Where are my pieces? Here we go. You're going to make a teeny little card out of this. This is a 6x3 piece of paper. You're going to want to score it and fold it at 3 inches. If you are a Stamp Club VIP, you will be punching your own little flowers. This is just an old retired punch, but it was the perfect size flower and it was fast and easy to use. So taking the punch and each of the pieces of InColor, we're going to punch one of each flower. So let me introduce you to Darling Duckling. It's a soft, pretty yellow that's got a green tinge to it. Strawberry Slush, which actually was a color that we carried before, and we're bringing it back as an InColor. There's our Strawberry Slush. Then we have a soft orange. This is different than pumpkin pie and definitely different than peach pie. This is Timid Tiger. Then we have Cloud Cover. Cloud Cover is a light grayish blue. I think the name of it is exactly perfect, Cloud Cover. And today in Southern California, we have a cloud cover kind of day. And then the fifth color is called Secret Sea, and it's a very, very dark blue. Similar to Night of Navy, but still different and separate. All right, if you're stamping from home, you will want to either grab maybe a Night of Navy ink pad or a black ink pad to do your stamping. We're going to put one quick stamp on the bottom of this white cardstock, way at the bottom. All right, and I'm using the stamp. Is this from Memorable Moments also? It might be. It's not. Okay, where did I pull this stamp set from? Oh, I think it's one of the newer stamp sets. I'll put the note in the description below so I don't have to take the time to look for that right now. So I'm going to use Secret Sea. And I'm going to stamp this right at the bottom of that white small card. This is a mini card that you would attach like to a gift or a gift bag. Super cute. All right, all the way at the bottom. I just realized you can't see. There we go. Like so. Then I've given you a piece of Cloud Cover Designer Series paper. And this is out of the Pretty Blooms paper, which we will be using. This won't be the first time you see, or the last time you see this paper. And what we're simply going to do is do a torn edge. We want to tear it small enough that your words are going to show. All right, so we're just going to tear this. We'll see if I've torn it enough or if I have to go back and take a little more off. Nope, that worked out just great. Okay, and we're going to attach that. And then we're going to put our 5 new InColor flowers onto this. Now, if you'd like to punch 1 extra flower, and for those of you doing Stamp Club at home, you were provided 1 extra flower to glue onto your envelope if you would like to do that. The colors are varying. You won't have the same color, but it is an InColor. So mine is Cloud Cover. I'm going to add it to the front of my envelope. And then I think that it needs a little something here. So I'm going to add a gem when we do our embellishing. Okay, you could also use a black marker and just make a simple center. The extra embellishment for your envelope is not included in your packet, but you will have embellishments for the front of your card. All right, so we're going to just do a dry fit and figure out where we want these to sit. Maybe something like that. I would suggest the only thing you don't want is to be too symmetrical. Okay, you don't want it to look like dots on a domino. So I would say make it a little bit less symmetrical as you're figuring out the placement. Okay, and then one at a time, you're just going to go ahead and attach those. Now let me tell you about cloud cover. Cloud cover will not be available to customers in an ink pad, and this is why. If you recall, several years ago, when we did a big overhaul on our ink pads, we switched to the firm foam pads. These are no longer the felt pads like in the old days. What we found with the cloud cover ink is that it was not as stable as Stampin' Up's requirements require. All right, they have very high standards for our products, and what they were finding is some of the ink pads in cloud cover were 100% fine, and some of them, when they got used, the color would shift and be a little bit off, let's say. Now, at a recent gathering, kind of like a convention, a lot of the demonstrators used the cloud cover ink pads, and even if they shifted a little, they really didn't mind. But I'm telling you, the standards of Stampin' Up are so high that they did not want to release that product to the public and have it possibly be a disappointment to anyone. So the cloud cover ink pad will not be available. You can get all of the other InColors, the Strawberry Slush, the Timid Tiger, the Darling Duckling, and the Secret Sea. You will see cloud cover in marker, you'll see cloud cover in designer series paper, and you'll also see cloud cover in cardstock. So that is great, and you can get quite a lot of use out of it that way. Let me tell you that if you still really would like an ink pad with cloud cover ink, all you need to do is purchase the empty or the blank ink spots. They come in a little pack of 5. There's no ink already on them. They're empty. And then you purchase a little re-inker of cloud cover, which is being made available, and you can create your own little ink spot. Ink spots use the old felt type pad, so there will not be a problem with the color shifting. The chemical reaction was only happening with the firm foam. So if you see a demonstrator with a cloud cover ink pad, it's because Stampin' Up did allow us as demonstrators to buy the ones that had already been manufactured with the disclaimer that your pad might have the ink color shift a little or not, but we're not making them available to our customers. And otherwise, you will be very, very happy doing the ink spot method, which is what I'm going to do. I have some of those empty ink spots. I'm going to buy the re-inker and create my own ink pad. All right, that is the update on cloud cover. Look at these gems. These are absolutely stunning. These are called 2025 to 2027 InColor Flat Pearls. And not only are they the InColors, but they have an iridescent shine to them. They're just lovely. Go ahead and find those in your packet now. And we're just going to match up the colors. It doesn't matter whether you use a small, a medium, or a large. And we're just going to drop those into the center of our flowers. Look at how cute. All right, there's Secret Sea, Cloud Cover, Timid Tiger, Darling Duckling, and Strawberry Slush. This card is almost too cute to put in an envelope. It's very cute. And there you have it. That is our project number 3. Let me mention about these little envelopes. This is a 3x3 card. We at Stampin' Up! Do not sell the 3x3 envelopes at this time, but I have put a link, an Amazon link, below this video. You can always find my shopping links there, and that will take you to a packet of, I think, 50 of these little white note card envelopes, the 3x3s. So that's where you can find them. So those are our 3 club projects. We have our cute InColor little note card. We have our pop-up with the little swing window there. And we have, of course, our gorgeous arch card. If you have any questions and comments, I would love to have you leave those for me, and I will read and respond to every single one. Next time you get ready to place your Stampin' Up! Order, don't forget to consider the everyday arches, and if you want to get a bundle, you can get the stamp set that coordinates with it as well. Until next time, happy stamping!